welcome back to a new watercolor video. Today I'm painting this cute little spooky picture, and this is watercolor and gouache. So I'll list everything that I'm using in the video description below, and if you want to download the line work and follow along, that'll be on my Patreon, and I'll also link that below. Okay, so I've traced the drawing onto the paper. I'm using hot press paper today, just for a change. I'm going to experiment more with hot press. I'm getting a little bit sick of the texture in the cold press arches paper, and I've got loads of paper that I just want to use up. So this one is actually Fabriano Artistico. But if you're going to follow along, I would advise a cotton paper. But if you notice on the sun, I didn't want the pencil line. I mean, you can barely see it, but it is there. So I'm going to start with the background. We're going to do the background in watercolor and then the foreground in gouache. So starting with the background color for the sky, I'm going to use two Daniel Smith colors. I'm going to use Aussie Red Gold, so I want a little bit of that, and Moonglow. So this is just kind of like a purpley shadow colour. So just use whatever colours you've got that are kind of similar colours. And I'm going to add some shimmer to them so it looks like twinkling stars in the sky. So I'm going to use one from this set, which is the glitter set, and one from this set, which is the Alice set. So from the Alice set, I like to take them out of the little box when I'm using them. I just find it easier. I just store them in the boxes. So in the Alice set, I'm using this one, Mad Hatter. So it's a nice orangey colour with gold flecks in it. So I've pre-soaked these. I'm going to use that one out of the Alice set, and then this one, Twinkle, out of the glitter set. Now I've pre-soaked these, especially the Twinkle. It does take quite a while to soften. It's because the glue is so strong, and the glue needs to be strong so that it doesn't flake back off the page. So unfortunately it does take a few minutes, so I would advise to put a few drops, like quite a lot of water on the top as well. Saturate the top with a few drops of water and leave it for a good 5 to 10 minutes. So do that before you start your painting, and then it should be ready nice and soft by the time you come to do your painting. So I'm going to grab some of the, see how it's nice and soft, and I can grab a big lump. And I'm going to mix that in with the Aussie Red Gold. And then I'm going to do the same with the Twinkle. Just grab a little lump. It's maybe a little bit much. Obviously, the more you put in, the more stars you're going to have, but you can overdo it if you put too much in. Right, I'm going to mix that into the Moonglow. Now with a mop brush, I'm going to wet the whole of the paper, but not the area with the moon. So I'm just careful. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be a whimsical picture. So if everything's a little bit wonky, that's absolutely fine, because that's the kind of style. So I'm not being too careful going around the sun there. I'm just making it not perfect. And then just wet the whole of the rest of the page. Okay, so I've wet the whole area except for the moon there. And then I'm going to get the Moonglow mix with the Twinkle. And I'm just going to drag that right across the top area. So it's a little bit weak at the moment, but I'll add some more in. We'll just get the kind of glistening layer over, and then we'll add some deeper colour as well. So I just want to take it maybe down to this area here. I'm going to wash the brush, then get some of the orange. I'm going to start about here and go up. Then we're going to mix them two colours together to form kind of a bit of a dull mix. Wow, this paper is, look at how much this paper warps. It's really warping a lot. It's creating a big puddle here. Wow. Don't think I'll be purchasing any more of that paper. And then just drag that down at the end. Most of that's going to be covered up with gouache, the bottom area. Now I'm going to get some of the Moonglow on the end of the brush right from the pan. And I'm going to add more in the top. I don't really want that orange in there. I haven't washed my brush enough. Make sure your brush is totally clean from the orange, and then get some of that Moonglow. Some more across the top. Oh, really regretting using this paper. I got used to that Archie's paper, that's what it is. Now I don't want to even finish because it's a spooky kind of picture. So we do kind of want it a little bit messy. So I just want to say about my handmade watercolors, if you don't already know, they're available on my website and also Etsy. But what I wanted to say was, if you're from the USA and you're worried about the tariffs, there's nothing to worry about now. It's all sorted out. So I pay the tariff at this end, so it is incorporated in the price of the paints, and you won't get any charges at your end. There was a lot of hysteria over it, but it's actually all just turned out fine. The only thing that you might get charged is a little bit of sales tax, but that would only be if your state charges sales tax on imports. Not all the states do. So yeah, but you won't get the new tariff charge. That's all sorted out now. So I'm pleased, I'm relieved, because I can now carry on selling my paints to America. Okay, I think that's looking quite good. I don't really want it much darker than that, but maybe just some little patches. So I'm going to mix up some more of that Moonglow. I'm going to wipe most of it off, and I just want to do some kind of dry brush. Actually, maybe not that dry. I'm going to get some more at the top so that it'll kind of stand out a little bit more against the crisp white border. If we get some darker, get it quite dark up at the top. Just add a little bit more water. Just trying to make it kind of patchy, but I don't want them kind of brush strokes on there. So I'm dropping some little bits on the moon and then getting some water on my brush, and then just blending some parts of that out. Maybe just a touch of orange as well. Just do a few little patches. I mean, we want it to look kind of gnarly because it's spooky, and I think that'll do. So I'll dry that off again. I'm adding a little bit of extra darkness around just the top area of the moon and blending it out a little bit. So I'm just using that Moonglow again, and then I'm just going to kind of scruffily blend it out like this. I'm finding this paper a little bit difficult to work with because I don't think I've actually used it before. I'm going to get some more of the orange colour. Not too much. Just add some of that in some areas. Just put it down, then get a little bit of water and just kind of scrub it about. Okay, so this is what the sparkle looks like. So we've got the gold flecks in the orange part, we've got a little bit on the moon area, and then the twinkle in with the Moonglow. So it's going to look like loads of little stars. It's going to look really nice at the end. So my pencil lines were not dark enough, so I'm going to go over them again. So I've got a much darker lead. So if you are following along, I would advise you to use a fairly dark pencil for the lines, but not really around the moon. Okay, pencil lines back in so I can see where I need to paint. So now I'm going to mix some Jane's Grey and I'm probably going to need a few different brushes for this. I'm going to paint in all of the trees. Now this is just going to be the base layer, and then I'm going to do gouache over the top. So this is going to be the last bit of watercolour. I'm going to obviously use just a little bit larger brush. I've got a 3 and a 5 round just for the thicker trunks. I've got a little liner brush for the thinner areas, and then for the really tiny areas I've just got a really tiny detail brush. So this is just kind of to map out the trees so we can see what we're doing. So this is just absolutely super therapeutic for me. I love doing this type of thing. Okay, so we've got the trees marked in, and now I'm going to move on to the gouache. I'm going to use 3 gouache colours for this. So I've got a white, a black, and this one's called blue black, but it's basically like Payne's grey. So I'm going to make a really light grey, and I'm going to use the white and a little blob of the blue black, just a tiny little bit, just to make a really light grey colour. I'm going to get a little bit of black as well because it's just looking a little bit pale blue. I'm going to paint this whole area here, so it's like a hill. So I'm using a flat brush, and I'm going to use it on its side like this, just to go along the edge and blob it down like this, so it's kind of a little bit uneven. So we don't want like a super straight line. It doesn't matter if you go over on the tree a little bit, because we're going to paint more black on top of the trees. And then I'm going to paint the rest of this area in. Paint this side in first. And I'm just going to make a darker mixture. Get some more of the white a little bit more of the blue and a little bit more of the black. So that's a much darker grey. A little bit. Create a separate hill, like of a different colour, kind of here. And I'm going to get some little bits of white and kind of just streak that in to make some kind of uneven patches in there. Get a dab of water. Okay, so it's all kind of uneven. I'm going to let that dry, and while that's drying I'm going to go over some of the trees with the black. So I need to make it add some water to make it float a bit more. Don't want it to be too thick. I'm going to make these ones super black so they stand out more in front of the moon. And then these ones I'm going to have a little bit of light, a hint of light on the left hand side. So we want the right hand side of the branches and the trunk to be fairly dark. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put all that dark in. Now ideally I would like these to be a little bit skinnier, but I've made them a little bit thick. But I'm also going to, with this black, I'm going to add some more pieces like this. It's kind of like Tim Burton inspired, and they often have little kind of notches, and some I'm kind of going to reshape them. Some of the parts will look a little bit straight. Can you see how I've made like a few little corners there? Just to make it a little bit more interesting. You can maybe like straighten this bit here. So we've got a little straight bit. This larger tree, I'm doing the black mainly to the right hand side. We're going to have a little bit of moonlight hitting the left hand sides, and then I'm just going to add lots of black across this edge. Paint the headstones in a dark grey, so we want them to be quite dark but lighter than the trees. Now the brush is just a little bit damp, and I'm going to get some of that grey that I've just used for the headstones on the brush, and then I'm going to wipe some of it off and then do some dry brush down this side, give it some texture. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't look right, because with gouache you can just keep altering it until you get it right. A little bit on this one. And then we want it a little bit lighter, so get some of that really light grey. And just dab it across this area, just in some places. So it looks like the moonlight is kind of shining on the edge of that tree. It's difficult not to overdo it, but we'll just keep adding more and more. Just keep adding more and more until you think it looks right, and then if it doesn't, if you've added too much, we'll just go back in with some darker colour. Maybe do a little bit here. So the ones that are on the going over the moon, I won't do it on those. Do a little bit on here. Clean my brush off, got a little bit of the black, and then I can knock some of it back just with dry brush effect. It's the dry brush effect, quite difficult to get right because it doesn't work if the brush is too wet. Add a little bit of detail to the tombstones now. So I've got really light, almost white, and I'm going to create an edge on this larger tombstone here. Now this should dry darker just so that it looks like it's a little bit more three-dimensional. It looks quite light, but it should dry a lot darker. Do the same on this one. Going to get some really watery grey on the tiny brush and just add a few more little bits of foliage to make it look like there's, you know, just little bits of foliage and stuff in the background. It's going to add a few details, just a few more little bits of moonlight to some of these, especially this one because it's kind of a bit too thick, that one. So if I add more moonlight to it, it'll maybe tone it down a little bit. Okay, so we want two greys, a really light, almost white grey and a fairly dark grey, and then on where the little tombstones are, I'm going to add some little kind of white blades of grass. Almost totally white for this, and just add some tiny little blades of grass over the darker parts. Try and make them kind of go in different directions. It's not easy to do. Make them look totally random. I think our brain wants us to make them uniform. And then we want a much darker grey. Do that over the light bits just to make them stand out more, but just really tiny. You can put some little grey ones in front of the white ones as well. Okay, so that's just for the edge. So I'm just getting some white on the larger brush. So I want it quite light. And I'm just going to join that up with those brush strokes. And then just kind of dab to give a little bit of texture. And take that down to the bottom because we want that area to be lighter. So I'm just making it more textured. Make it more dark over to this side here, just so that it's not completely one colour all the way across. And then make it a little bit darker as we go further down. Just add some more black into the mixture. Then I'm going to do the same with this area, make this a little bit darker, so kind of a mid-grey. These brass blades are a little bit larger because they're closer. Then I'm going to get the darker mixture and do the same kind of thing. So I'm just going back and forth until I get a nice texture that I like. I mean, we're going to put some more foliage over the top, so this is just going to be background, so it doesn't need to be too perfect. So I've added some water to the bronze. I'm going to use some of this as well, just for some finishing touches. So this is from the metal set. So it's this one, bronze. And I've got a really thin liner brush. So this is a 10/1. So it's super thin, it's got a point on the end. I'm just going to get some really watery grey. Sorry if you can hear building work, it's workmen taking scaffolding down next door. And I'm going to add some kind of longer, try and do it carefully. Maybe make some of them a little bit darker. I really wish I was better at this. Do you know what I forgot to do? I'll have to break for a second because I forgot to add the black on this trunk area here. So I need to paint that in. We want that super dark. And I'm not going to put any moonlight on this bit because it's just going to be a backdrop for some more foliage. And then I'm going to do some of the grey ones again. I'm going to go right over the black. So now for the final touches, I'm going to add some of the bronze into a little separate palette. Oops. I'm also going to use some of the White Rabbit from the Alice set, so I need to let that soften for a few minutes. Then with the super thin brush and the bronze, I'm going to load the brush up with the bronze, and I'm just going to make not many but just a few little grass strokes with this. Then I'm going to use the dot and twirl and just do some random little bronze dots. And I'm changing the shape so that they look like some kind of little bits of foliage. Now I'm going to get some of the White Rabbit. I want it to be quite strong. This is a lovely shimmery white, and I'm just going to add some little white flecks here and there with the dot and twirl, and they'll just like look like little white pearls. Okay, I think that will do for those, and I think I'm gonna leave it there. So I'm just going to dry that off one final time and then get the tape off. There we go, so that is the finished picture, and that's all the gorgeous starry glimmer, which I think has turned out really well. I'm really pleased with that. It looks so good. And then we've got the bronze at the bottom. Oh, and the little white dots, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but they're kind of like the little white dots are like a kind of pearly finish, but very, very difficult for the camera to pick it up. And this is the aftermath.